Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I have some short books that can help you achieve your reading goals. So obviously we are nearing the end of the year because we are currently doing the 12 days of Bookmas, and so I wanted to bring you guys some short books. I think they're pretty much all classified as like novellas. At least they're all under 250 pages that you could read to fulfill your reading goal. In case you're not quite there yet, I do want to say I could have filled this with a whole bunch of comics, graphic novels, or manga because one, most of them are under 250 pages, but two, they're very quick and easy to read. But I wanted to pull in some actual like novels, novellas most likely, books that have you reading a lot more, just because there are some that one, I absolutely love, but two, are very quick to get through, like you can read them in like a sitting or so, and so if you're looking for some more books to fit in by the end of the year, I feel like this should be a very good video for that. I do have it separated into some categories as well, so we are going to be going through like sci-fi fantasy, romance, horror, mystery, and thriller, and then a few classics as well. So starting off in our sci-fi fantasy section, the first one I have here is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Now, keep in mind, this is the ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's huge. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the first book, actually pretty much all of the books in the series, but the first book especially. They're all under like 200 pages, very easy to get through. There's also a movie as well that actually sort of combines a few of the books. So the movie's quite long, the book is not that long, and it is basically just about a man named Arthur Dent who has been saved from the destruction of Earth because they're bulldozing it for like a super highway, and he is now going through the galaxy with his friend who happens to be an alien, and they have a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so there are some asides from that book showing you like what to do if you're hitchhiking in the galaxy. It is very satirical, has some very dark humor. I love the first one, and the second one is not my favorite, but I haven't read the rest of them yet either, but so far, they're very quick and easy to get through because they're not super long. So if you're looking for a more like classic sci-fi with a lot of very dark, dry British humor, I think you'll like this one. The next one I have here is Our Bloody Pearl by D.N. Bryn. This is actually the nerdy book box edition, which is absolutely gorgeous. We have like the sprayed edges and everything, but this is a book that I absolutely loved, one of my favorite books of last year, and we basically have sirens and pirates, and it does get dark in some places. We have lots of representation as well. I know I've talked about this book on my channel a few times, but we have like people of color and sapphic romance and asexual representation, non-binary representation, disabilities in here as well. I absolutely love this author's work. Like, I have read a few different things by this author so far, and I've given all of them like 4 or 5 stars, and I think this is my favorite still of all of the works that I have read, and I think part of it is just because of the characters and the relationships in this story. It is very found family as well, but also, like I said, gets very dark. We're basically following a siren who is disabled, has been paralyzed, and is trying to escape a very ruthless pirate when they sort of get captured by a different pirate, and things go from there. I really love this one, and like I said, it is going to be very quick to read. A very obvious one, or series I should say, for this is going to be the Wayward Children series by Sean and McGuire. I feel like when most people are talking about novellas, especially like sci-fi fantasy type of stuff, this is the series that they bring up most often. But I see why, because I gave 5 stars, 4.5 stars, and 5 stars to these first 3 books in the series. I just absolutely love them. They're all very short, very novella length, obviously, so you can definitely get through them in one sitting if you wanted to, and they're all basically like portal fantasy type of stuff. What happens after the kids come back from those portal worlds. Basically, especially in this first book, we are following a new girl who has arrived at this sort of like boarding school that is full of children that came from different portals, and now they are back on Earth trying to come to terms with the fact that they are no longer in their world. Like, these worlds are places that they feel is a part of them, that is like who they are wholly meant to be, and I just absolutely loved everything about it. This first book also has a little bit of like a mystery aspect to it, a little bit darker than I expected. The second book, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, is definitely darker because we're like in a portal world, and it's a very dark portal world. And then here, the third one is Beneath the Sugar Sky. This one's a little bit more weird and fantastical, but again, I absolutely loved it. So the fact that they're all in the same series, sort of companion novels following different kids from this series, and a lot of them have very different vibes to these books. I just still have absolutely loved every single one, and I felt like it was sort of obvious to pick these, but I still needed to mention them. One that might not be as obvious, even though I know I've mentioned it on my channel before, and it's another one from Shauna McGuire, is Dusk or Dark or Dawn or Day. This is, again, a novella. It sort of looks like it should fit in with the Wayward Children series. It does not. It is about ghosts. It's following our main character, who is a ghost living in New York City. Ghosts are not quite the same that you would think normally. This is a very unique take on ghosts, and as she's going about her day-to-day life, she realizes that other ghosts in this city are starting to disappear. And so it does sort of turn into a mystery aspect that way. She's trying to figure out exactly where are these ghosts going, because this is not something that's a normal thing. Like, it's not normal to see these ghosts disappear in this world. I absolutely love this one. 5 out of 5 stars. It is very, very different from the Wayward Children series, but if you like Shauna McGuire's writing style, I definitely think you should give this one a try. Another one is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries. Again, most of the books in this series are novella length, although I think there's at least one that is a novel length. I have not read that one yet, so we'll see. But I absolutely love this first book. It does follow our main character, who is Murderbot. I believe that is sort of what they have named themselves, because they are this like interesting AI robot sort of combo. It's hard to tell if they're more cyborg or AI, but they are like a security bot with these scientists on this planet, but they've hacked their like security module, so they are more aware, and mystery, weirdness, sci-fi stuff happens on this planet, and it's very interesting to read from the point of Murderbot. I absolutely love the first one, and again, there are multiple books in this series, and most of them are novella length. Okay, we're gonna move into some romance now. One that I have to mention is the Planet Barbarians series by Ruby Dixon. Now, I will say, the Planet Barbarians, when they were in the indie self-published, are under 250 pages. These new ones that are the special editions from Berkeley are longer. I think this one's like 300-ish. And I think part of it is because of the format of the books, but also there is usually some sort of extra short story in these ones. But even though this is longer, they are technically quick enough to read as novella length books, especially if you're doing like an audiobook and you're speeding it up a bit. And these ones, I feel like the vibes of these covers are completely different, right? This looks like erotica, this looks like romance, and I feel like this cover actually does fit a little better in my opinion. I know a lot of people, when this was very, very popular, like last year or whatever on TikTok, it was popular before that too, but I feel like that's when it had its surgence of stuff, right before these special edition covers came out. A lot of people are billing it as like just smut, just erotica. It is not, and that is something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, and that's something that I would like to know. There is a whole plot here between the characters and survival on the planet, and there is actual romantic build-up here, not just sex. So I was very appreciative of these covers. Like, I do feel like these actually fit the tone of the series better than these, even though they're very iconic. And so yeah, if you're looking for some romance, there are some sexy scenes and everything in here, but it's not going to be purely erotica. Definitely try these. The audiobooks, I actually really like the narrators for both the female characters and the male characters. It's the same two people for all the books that I've read so far, but they do a very good job doing the different characters and everything like that. Like, I absolutely love the audiobooks. And yeah, so this one's gonna look longer than this, but they should be quick reads. The next one I have here is Mangoes and Mistletoe by Adriana Herrera. This is a Christmas novella that I read a couple years ago and really enjoyed. It is a sapphic romance set at a baking competition, and it was a really fun read. They do have like a sort of rivalry here, but I liked the fact that it was like an enemies to lovers, and it is the perfect setting for Christmas because it's mangoes and mistletoe. It's like a Christmas baking competition. I did really like the characters in here. I really do want to read more of Adriana Herrera's work because of this book. And again, a very short novella for Christmas time. It's the perfect time of year to read it. The next book I have here is actually part of a series. It's Imposter by Tate James. This is the first book in the Royal Trials series, and actually I think there's 3 books in this series and every single one is under 250 pages, so a very quick series to get through. This is a reverse harem polyamorous romance series that I read a while ago and really enjoyed. It does have some of the very common reverse harem tropes and stuff like that, but I think one thing that I really did like is that our main character is sort of like a mercenary, but she ends up accidentally entering these trials almost in a like selection type of thing. I think it is supposed to be for like the prince getting married, something like that. I have not read it in a little while, but I really liked our main character and the fact that she is a tough female character, very strong female character, but there's some like deception and intrigue going on during this series as well. But so again, if you're looking for some romance, these are very quick to read and they were very addictive. Like once I read book 1, I needed to continue with the series. The next series I have here is the Wings of Artemis series by Rebecca Royce. Again, all of these books are going to be under 250 pages and there are multiple books in the series. One thing I will say for this is with this series, basically only 2 books are with the main character. So like you'll have a main character for 2 books and then it will be another main character for 2 books and then another main character for 2 books. So you actually can go in at any of those points if you would like, but also you don't have to read an entire series if you don't want to. You can do a pair of books because that'll be the whole story for that one character. This is also going to be reverse harem polyamorous romance with a sci-fi setting. This one I did like because of the fact that they are sort of connected in 2 books each, and the first book in this series is kidnapped by her husband. It has a pregnancy, but also she has amnesia, so it does have some tropes that not a lot of people are going to enjoy. But I really did like the fact that she is technically in relationships already, but because of the amnesia and stuff, we did have to sort of go on that journey with her again. So this is a very unique one that I don't hear a lot of people talk about. The next series, because again, a series that I wanted to talk about is the Night World series by L.J. Smith. These are the like original covers from the 1990s, but there are many different editions out now, but each individual story, again, is under 250 pages, and they're very easy to read. I want to say each book I read in like one sitting, less than 2 hours each. The first one that I have read is Secret Vampire. I've also read Daughters of Darkness, and where is it? Spellbinder. So these are the first 3 books in this series. They are YA paranormal romance. Pretty much all of them also have like the fated mate trope. So if you're not into insta-love, maybe don't read these. But I found them very quick, sort of cheesy, but fun reads. And so if you're looking for something that's, you know, quick and easy, here you go. Now, one that I don't think necessarily fits romance, but our next category is horror, mystery, thriller, and it doesn't fully fit that either. So I'm putting it sort of in the middle right now, is The Foxhole Court by Nora Sakavic. This is the first book in the All for the Game series, and the reason I'm doing this is because the first book actually is a novella length, under 250 pages sort of book. The rest of the series is longer, although it's very addictive. Once you read the first one, especially if you love it, you're going to have to read the next 2 books in the series, and it is going to be longer books, but they're going to be quick to get through because they're just that addictive. But it is a very dark series. There are lots of content and trigger warnings for it, so do not go in expecting happy male-male romance, because I feel like sometimes that's how it's billed and it should not be. These are sports books, like they have a college sport atmosphere, but it also has mobs and gangsters and abuse, lots of abuse. It's, like I said, very dark to read, but it's also like very character driven, so I absolutely love them. And the reason why I wasn't entirely sure where to put them is because it does have those darker mob gangster elements, could be sort of thriller-ish, but by the time you get to like the third book, there are actual romance elements as well. And so I hear it build romance more than anything else, even though you should not go into it expecting that. I will also say that I bought these dust jackets for the series from an artist. So I will leave them linked down below because this is not what the original cover looks like. It's this. But I love this series so much that I had to buy pretty dust jackets for it. So yeah, very, very quick, sort of weird books, very dark books, but I love them. Okay, so as I said before, we are now going to move into the next category, which is horror, mystery, thriller, and the first one I have here is Ring Shout by P. Jelly Clark. So this is a novella that is definitely horror, and it is based on like 1920s KKK sort of stuff, but in the fact that like in this book, the KKK are actual like horrific monsters, and it was very interesting seeing how that came together. So we do have people, black people, especially from this time period, fighting these like horrific KKK monsters. I don't know if I can get into it more than that. It is very, very unsettling, but I think it's supposed to be that way, obviously, and it is a very important book as well. Like, I really did enjoy my time reading it. I will say there are some dialect things in this book that I actually wish I would have read it as an audiobook, because for me, auditory processing of those is easier than visually processing stuff like that. But I still really enjoyed my time reading it, and it is very horrific. The next stuff I have here are actually two different books by the same author. We have Monstrosity and In Absence by Laura Diaz de Arce. So these are both short story collections by this author, and they're mostly horror. There are some things in there that aren't. There are some very heartwarming stories in here as well. Fantasy stories, sci-fi stories. This is probably one that defies the categories that I have here, but I absolutely loved both of them. 5 out of 5 stars. Monstrosity is more of a feminism short story collection, definitely has more horror elements in here as well compared to In Absence, which is more dealing with grief. Not as much horrific stuff, very still full of like heartwarming and fantasy and sci-fi, and there are some very hard topics, but I absolutely loved both of these, and because they're short story collections but also quite short, they're quick to read. The next one is Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This one is so weird. I think when I first read this a couple years ago, it was billed by the summary a certain way, and it doesn't fully fit that, so I'm going to try to do my best, because you do want to go into this book not knowing anything because of the way that it is, but it's following a character who thinks he is in a like horror movie sort of thing. He thinks these mannequins are coming to life, and I don't want to necessarily go into it more than that, because it is definitely one of those books that leaves you going like, what the fuck is going on? But I still loved reading it, and one, it's less than 250 pages. It's a very quick read, but also because of the content of it, you are compelled to keep reading. You do not want to put this down. I think I finished it in one sitting. Next, I have the Criminal Intentions series by Cole McCade. Again, I've only read 2 books of this so far, but I've absolutely loved them, and the first book is for sure novella length. It is called The Cardigans, and this is a series that follows 2 detectives, and they are both queer, and in this first book, they are solving the deaths, the homicides of gay students at a college, and so it does get very, very dark. This is probably more crime slash thriller related, but I absolutely loved the writing style and the characterization, and I think the second book in this series, Junk Shop Blues, was better in my opinion than The Cardigans, but that is a very good introduction to the 2 main characters, and I definitely need to read more because these are set up sort of like a crime TV show, like almost like a Law and Order sort of thing, where each book is a new episode, and so we do follow the same characters, but we're not following like a super long arc. As far as I'm aware, there have been some instances that are hinting at maybe a larger arc, but each book so far has its own main storyline. Then we also have Mouthful of Ashes by Brianna Morgan. This is a vampire story that I think I read last year and really enjoyed. There are definite LGBTQ elements in here, and we have characters who are sort of entangled with vampires. They don't really know that that's what it is at first, but I believe there is some sort of like they ingested the vampire blood and have only a certain amount of time to sort of like reverse the effects, or they're going to turn into vampires themselves. Okay, the last one I have in this category is going to be Secret Santa by Andrew Schaefer. This is a horror book set at Christmas. Not exactly like The Gremlins, but reminds me of that a little bit because that is a movie that is set at Christmas, but it is definitely not like a happy Christmas movie, you know what I mean? This is a book that is going to have very similar elements. Some of the horror in here is a little bit cheesy or more humorous, so I guess it's like a horror comedy set at Christmas, but does follow a girl that is working in a publishing firm when mysterious things start to happen. It looks like there are deaths and things like that happening as well. It does get sort of spooky, and I mean, just look at this cover. It's perfect for Christmas, but it is going to have those horror comedy elements, and I just really enjoyed this one. It says, "The gift that keeps on giving," with those little evil eyes, so yeah. And then the last category I have here only has 3 books in it, and it is going to be classics. And these are things that like I read either in high school or junior high, and definitely would have those more classic feels, or books that you would consider classics, but they're again very quick to read and I enjoyed them. So that's telling you something, because I don't read very many classics that I enjoyed. The first one I have here is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This I read my freshman year of high school, and I really did like the fact that this is a very good commentary on like dystopian society, book burning, what happens when people aren't reading books enough and are just taking in their information from TV or news that other people are making for them. I really did like this one, and it does make me want to read more of Ray Bradbury's work. We also have The Face on the Milk Carton by Carolyn B. Cooney. This is one that I read, I think in elementary school or junior high sometime. It is a classic that I want to say is more YA compared to like Fahrenheit 451, but this follows a girl who realizes that she is on the milk carton and she probably had been kidnapped. So she's been growing up just thinking that she's part of one family when she's possibly part of another. And that is just such a crazy concept to me, that this is also a whole series, and I remember reading all of them and just devouring these books. Very, very quick to read, and you want to know what happens. And then the last one I have here is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. This is one that I read, I think in 8th grade, in an advanced English class, and this commentary as well. It is very gory. I think I remember crying with this book as well, but it's basically a group of boys from, I think, a boys' boarding school who end up stranded on an island, no adults anywhere, and they go feral. Like, it is a tough read at parts, but very, very quick and very interesting to read. And that is going to be it. Hopefully there are quite a few different genres and types of books here that if you're really trying to pad some numbers in at the end of the year, or at least trying to read some shorter books, because I understand not wanting to read really, really long books this time of year. Hopefully this gave you some ideas. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. Since I am doing the 12 days of Bookmas, I will have a new video up tomorrow, and I will see you then. Bye!